Hi everybody, it's Tatiana, and today I have another tag video for you, and this is going to be the How I Read tag, and I saw this on Richard's channel, and I will put the link to his video in the box below, in the description box below, so check him out if you have not seen it already. And it is a tag of 8 questions that go somewhat pretty quickly if I don't ramble. So here we go. Question number 1, how do you find out about new books to read? I primarily find out about new books to read through my library. Every few months they have, or I check it every few months, they have a periodical that is published where it has new releases that are expected to come, as well as new books that are hitting the bookshelves in the library. I also go on a consistent basis, probably more often than I should, and I walk the stacks and I check out what are called the lease books, which are books that are new releases that have not yet, the library has not been able to get enough copies to put them on the main shelf, on the main stack shelf, so that they could be available for monthly rentals. So that's primarily how I find out about new books to read. I also check Goodreads, and I check YouTube, and I check, when I don't check Barnes & Noble, when I go to Barnes & Noble, I will go through the shelves at Barnes & Noble for the new releases and see what happens. Question number 2, how did you get into reading? I got into reading because my parents read to me when I was a kid. I had good night stories. I had stories during the day. My dad used to tell stories, used to make up stories about a female hero based on my middle name, and they were always adventure stories. And basically the way that I learned how to read is when my mother would read books to me, I would memorize the books, and then from memorizing the books, I would go through the book and read it page by page, and then I learned how to recognize words, so on and so forth, and that's how I got into reading. It's always been a part of my life. Question number 3, how has your taste in books changed as you've gotten older? The main thing that's changed as I've gotten older is the extent of the romance novels that I read, and the fact that I don't read as much horror now as I did when I was a kid. I used to read a lot of horror novels when I was a kid. I was huge into R.L. Stine and Christopher Pike, and there was a third guy, and I can't remember his name right now, and the Dollhouse Murders by Betty Rick Wright. I think I read that like 3 times. I was really, really big into horror, and it's not that I don't like to read horror now. I just got out of it, and I have not come across what I think is a horror book. So maybe I read some horror and it just doesn't seem like a horror book to me, because the horror books I read when I was a kid, they freaked me the hell out. And maybe I'm just so weird now that the horror books that I read now just don't freak me out anymore. The main thing that's changed is now, instead of reading a particular genre per age as I did when I was a kid, now I just read it all, and I enjoy it all, and I can compartmentalize it all, and it's great. It's a book orgy, and it's the best feeling ever. Number 4, how often do you buy books? I try to keep it down to about once a month. I really could stand to buy them less than that, because with the way that my schedule is, I can't read them as fast as I can buy them, which is why I have a huge I have just a shelf of TBR books now. I have taken the books that I have not read out of the general population of the books that I finished, and I have given them their own bookcase. And the fact that they have their own bookcase and not a bookshelf is ridiculous. So I need to stop buying so many books at one time, but it's so hard because I love buying books and I love reading books. So I'm gonna catch up to myself at some point. But yeah, pretty much once a month, or whenever the urge hits. How did you get into booktubing? I started booktubing because before I found out about booktube, I had a blog. It was a blog that I started about my natural hair journey, and pretty much everything is repetitive for what I do for my natural hair. Also on my blog were when I would go see musicals, I would do a review of the musical, and then I would also write out some reviews for the books that I read. And the books the book reviews were not viewed as much as the hair post, so I could tell that it was not doing well on my blog, and I wanted another way, or was looking for another outlet or what to do with that, because really I'm not around a lot of readers. I'm around people who do read, but they don't read the same kind of novels that I read, so that was not working out. And then one night I couldn't sleep, and at like 2 in the morning I was on YouTube, and something told me to type in book recommendations. And I typed it in, and the second video that showed up in the search feed for that was John Green's book recommendations of, like, if you read this, if you like this, then you'll like this novel. And I clicked on it to watch that, and I absolutely enjoyed that video, and I wrote down a couple suggestions from that. And then on the suggestions, there were all of these other videos about books, and I had no idea that there was such a large community of people who were readers who were doing videos on YouTube. I had primarily joined YouTube for music videos, natural hair information, and recipes here and there. So to have found the BookTube community, it was an eye-opening experience for me. I was so excited. I called my mom at like 2 o'clock in the morning. She was not as excited as I was. But yeah, I was super excited. And that was about a year, just over a year ago. And then I said, well, shoot, I am enjoying seeing these videos. Why not record a couple and just see how they go? See, you know, try to get into it and see if I like it. And I had done 2 videos prior to recording my first BookTube video, and they were both hair videos, and I really didn't like the sound of my own voice. I'm not somebody who enjoys being the center of attention, so to listen to myself talk, to have to edit it, and to hear my own voice over and over and over again, it really, really irked me. And I said at that point, I don't think this is something for me. But oddly enough, doing videos about books, I don't have that problem. Sometimes when I'm editing, my voice does get on my nerves, but for the most part, I don't mind it. So hey, how do you react when you don't like the end of a book? I talk shit about it. How often have you taken a sneaky look at the back page of a book to see if it's a happy ending? Never. I have never looked at the back of the book to see if it's a happy ending. What I have done is if I'm reading a book, especially if it's a book where like there's the supernatural element and there are a lot of gory fights and things that are going on and people are getting eviscerated but they don't die or they don't seem to die, I will scroll through a few pages just to scan and see if I see that person's name show up in the next 5 or 10 pages, because I really can't read 5 or 10 or 30 pages as fast as my mind and my blood pressure would like for me to read them, so I can know if this person dies or not. So yeah, that is the extent of my look ahead situation. I have never skipped ahead to the end of the book to see if there's a happy ending. If you're going to do that, why bother reading the book? Because once you know the ending, is not like it's your life, it's not your story, so who gives a shit about the middle if you're going to go ahead and check the end? So no, I've never done that. How many people are you going to tag and who are they? I'm going to tag you. If you want to do this tag, knock yourself out. Give it a go. And I hope you all enjoyed that, and I hope you have a good weekend, whenever you see this video. Peace out.